Funding for Georgia Outdoors has been made possible in part by grants from the Georgia Natural Resources Foundation, from the Imlay Foundation, and from viewers like you.
This is an American alligator. He's real cute now, but he can grow up to 16 feet long and weigh half a ton. It is an amazing animal, and this show is all alligator.
If you are swimming in a river or lake, you really don't want to see that determined-looking face headed your way. They seldom chase people, but it is not a good idea to splash around in a river known to be thick with alligators, especially at dusk when they tend to feed. Their heads are shaped so that the eyes and nostrils can sit above water while the rest of their body remains out of sight. It gives them an advantage when hunting for food. An alligator can look like a statue, then suddenly lurch forward with incredible speed. They are fast swimmers and use their powerful tails to weave through the water. That tail accounts for half the length of an alligator body. If you ever get into a wrestling match with a gator, his tail is as dangerous as his mouth. It is up to Greg Waters and Jim Gillis to keep tabs on Georgia's alligator population. They work for the Department of Natural Resources and brought me this big boy so we can show you the beauty of this reptile up close.
He can't bite me, but that head is pretty strong.
That's right. Alligators have incredible biting power in their muscles. They have strong muscles in their head that lets them bite. An adult alligator has been measured to have over 3,000 foot-pounds per square inch of biting force, which is more than like lions and tigers and things. But their muscles for opening their mouth are very weak. And so even this alligator, it's about a 6-foot alligator, this electrical tape that's on his mouth will hold his tape shut, and you could even use that on larger alligators up to 10, 12 feet.
I see his teeth. I think he thinks he might be able to take a bite.
If they can't bite, a lot of times they'll use their head as a weapon, and their skull is very hard bone, and so they have been known to hurt people when they're trying to catch them, to remove them, by just swinging their head around and hitting them with their head.
And you were telling me about these things that stick up that are very hard. It feels like a bone.
That's correct. These are osteoderms. They're actually little bony plates inside the skin. It gives the alligator that bumpy appearance.
They are also called scutes and protect alligators from other predators, including humans. Arrows generally bounce off the back of an alligator because it is made up of mostly bone.
And you can feel the difference between where they have the osteoderms up here and where they don't, on their belly and their sides.
His underbelly is surprisingly smooth and soft, which is one reason they were almost hunted to the point of extinction. Alligators made an amazing comeback, and now they are protected in the wild. They are also raised commercially on alligator farms that sell their meat and skins.
Ross Allen, a lesson in how he captures dangerous alligators with his bare hands.
In the 60s, entrepreneurs figured out that alligators are great tourist attractions.
Is enough to kill a man.
People will pay to see them. They will pay even more to watch a wrestling match.
Not many men would come to grips, unarmed and underwater, with a 200-pound monster like this one. Ross has had lots of experience, though, and he's never yet lost a fight with an alligator. As he puts it, you only lose a contest with them once, and he's learned never to underestimate the strength and speed of the big gators.
Tourism aside, Georgia and other southern states still allow some alligator hunting, but it is heavily regulated. That's where Greg and Jim come in. Each night at dusk, they go out to catch and release alligators. That's how they make sure there's a good ratio between juveniles and adults. It helps the state set a limit on how many alligators can be taken in a given year.
See how my line's going down there?
This is the one that got away. He is probably a 10-footer. You can tell by his head.
Did you estimate 10?
Greg eyeballs the gator and determines the distance between the eyes and the nostrils is about 10 inches, which indicates the body is 10 feet long. That's the size many hunters are looking for, which in a weird sort of way is a good thing.
If they don't have the opportunity to get an alligator as big as they want, say it's 8 foot, 10 foot, whatever it may be, then they just don't want to take one, even though a 4-footer is legal. And so our success rate for our alligator season is in the low 30%, but that's because so many people want a large size alligator, and if they don't have that opportunity to catch a large one, then they'd just rather not harvest one at all. There we go, that's good, he broke it. Might have hit the boat or the propeller, just all the fraying. That's all right though.
Night after night, Greg and Jim go out on surveys, catching gators to check out their size.
Cruise up on him, let's look.
It's easier to spot alligators at night because of something called eye shine. Eye shine occurs when light passes through the retina and hits a membrane that's like a mirror. It creates an eerie glow of eyes looking back at you. Jim has the alligator call perfected. And they come when he makes that guttural sound. Alligators are cannibalistic. Some are swimming over to see if that sound is coming from a smaller gator they can eat.
They can grow up to 12 inches a year in a good habitat, but they can grow a lot less than that depending on the quality of the habitat. They're really generally 8 to 10 inches long when they first hatch out. They hatch out in the fall, either late August or September. This alligator is going to go to one of our education centers where they'll use him to show children about and teach them about wetlands and the benefits of alligators, that they are in the wetland ecosystem and the range of alligators, and then later he'll be released back to the wild.
As they spot alligators along riverbanks, Greg just reaches into the water and grabs smaller ones by the neck. In between hisses, it's calling out to other gators.
That's the call they use when they're kind of calling their mother to say there's something threatening them.
Larger alligators are not quite so agreeable. They use a snare on this one. A hunter would have to do the same thing. It is illegal to kill an alligator in Georgia that has not first been restrained and pulled to the boat.
Right at 49 inches. So this would be a legal alligator.
But this is not a hunt, so back in the water he goes.
That's the way we do it.
The work they do is especially important because this is a keystone species that other animals depend on. Alligators create holes that fill with water for protection in times of drought. Those holes also support birds, snakes, and other wildlife when fresh water is scarce. This is just one cool critter, and being this close, I cannot resist the urge to pick up a 6-foot gator.
Wow.
I got him.
You messed with my head, buddy.
Oh,
He is big.
feel how strong he is?
Yes, I do.
That's the trick with alligators. They play possum. You may think an alligator is just tired, lying around, not paying attention. Even pros like Greg and Jim can be taken by surprise.
Ever had a scare?
Well, we had one instance where we were removing some nuisance alligators. We pulled him in. Again, I'm holding him by the mouth, waiting for Jim to get the tape. And he had a little more fight in him. And this time when he rolled, he caught my hand in his mouth and started rolling with my hand in his mouth. And now there was no way I was going to fall out of the boat into the water where other alligators were. Jim grabbed him, was holding him by his front legs, my hand's in his mouth, and Jim happened to have a knife on his side. And so I was able to grab the knife and cut him right behind his head right here and cut his spinal cord. And we still had to go over to the bank and use a crowbar to pry his mouth off my hand.
Alligators are good hunters because they are so patient. Alligators really don't look like a creature that belongs in this century. It may be because alligators and crocodiles are closer to their prehistoric ancestors than any reptile alive today. Dinosaurs, gators, crocs, and oddly enough, even birds are all part of a group called Archosaurs, which has existed for 250 million years. If the mating season millions of years ago was anything like it is today, the noise would have been deafening. Alligators and crocodiles begin mating around late April or May. Males put on quite a display. First sucking in air, they then bellow. The posture says it all. Head up, tail up. A picture of romance. But in case there's any doubt, he makes the water dance for any ladies who may be watching. The male torso creates a vibration that produces a low-frequency sound so powerful the water pulsates above him. When a male and female find each other to be worthy, they swim around, touching, pushing each other under the water, and eventually mating. The female will copulate with many males before building her nest. It's called multiple paternity. So in a single clutch of eggs, a female can have many fathers represented. We worked with Greg Scupion, a UGA grad student, to capture video of alligators waiting on their babies to hatch. He is part of a large project on Jekyll Island to study alligator use of man-made lagoons. We used several trail cameras and learned that all the action occurs at night. There will be an average of 38 eggs in a nest, but of those that hatch, only about 10 will live past 1 year. The babies are a food source for anything bigger, especially adult alligators. The mother checks on her nest several times, listening for little grunts from babies ready to hatch out. She helps the process along by digging into the deep nest to free the babies. They come out fully developed and ready to go. She carries them to the water and will protect them for at least a year, sometimes more. The sex of baby gators is determined by the temperature inside the nest of decomposing vegetation. If it's below 86 degrees, the hatchlings will be female. Males are produced when it gets to be above 92 degrees. Anything in between means there will probably be both male and female babies. They look like rubber toys as they float around near their mother, but at this stage they are easy prey, and adult alligators are often the ones who eat them. Okefenokee Swamp may be the best place to see alligators in a natural habitat. At Stephen Foster Park, close to the Florida border, alligators are everywhere, and that's good for tourism. They do not want an encounter with humans and tend to be shy. As you pass through the swamp in search of a sighting, you have the benefit of seeing incredible beauty in just about every direction. Turtles, birds, deer, even bugs and algae dance in the water. There is one increasing problem at the swamp and other lakes or rivers where alligators live. People feed them, and then alligators begin to equate humans with food. Fishermen are unintentional enablers. When an alligator figures out that there may be a fish at the end of those rods, he becomes a nuisance that has to be removed. Watch this scene. It is unbelievable.
Hannah, come look at, oh, it fell off. Come look at, oh, gator back.
Jackie Carter is one of the people called in to remove alligators that get this bold. Now you will witness the power of the tail. This alligator would do the same thing if he got his jaws on something large like a deer. Once he has an animal struggling, the alligator will do what's called a death roll, and that's the end of that. But not today. This is a 10-foot, 7-inch alligator who should have stayed back in the swamp and lived a long life. Folks like Jackie who love these reptiles hate to see this happen.
If people hadn't been feeding this gator, it wouldn't have been a problem. I am a nuisance trapper, and we only get gators that create problems. But when everybody started feeding this gator, the gator thought everybody was his food source then. If people leave him alone, we wouldn't have a problem.
Okefenokee is protected, but human-alligator clashes have become an increasing problem as more alligator habitat is developed. That's where the research conducted by Greg Scoopian comes in. He tags every alligator caught on Jekyll Island. Many of those caught have a radio transmitter attached to one of the scoots. That allows researchers to begin to see a pattern of movement on the island. Kimberly Andrews heads the research program and hopes to use their findings to mitigate problems between alligators and people.
As part of our research, we started to do what we call mark recapture, which is just putting tags on the animals. It's essentially our equivalent of putting name tags on these animals since they largely look alike. Just like the U.S. Census, if we want to know how many are out there, we need to take those polls. So we do have few large alligators on Jekyll. A lot of them are in very visible locations, so people often think that we have a lot of individuals, but from Greg's research, we know that those individuals are moving around quite a bit. So in a given day, people may think that there are 3 different alligators overall, when really it's just one moving from place to place.
So some of the things that we're seeing is that these large American alligators are using multiple habitat types here on Jekyll Island. So we might capture an alligator, say, on the golf course, but then that individual will go out into the marsh, it'll move into freshwater wetlands and other parts of the island. So we're really seeing that they're using a diversity of habitat types here on the island.
The alligator is doing its part to make it work around human activity. They have adapted to development, even using culverts that run underneath parking lots and roads. Even so, many large alligators have to be removed because people feed them.
And alligators, they're not dangerous or aggressive inherently. They're just like a dog. An alligator has incredible capacity for learned behavior. If they're fed, they're just simply learning that you're the free meal. So they're not aggressive, they're smart.
And as the saying goes, a fed alligator is a dead alligator. That's because they can't just move it someplace else. Researchers have learned that alligators have an incredible homing instinct. So even if the gator is captured and moved miles and miles away, there is a good chance it will try to find its way back home. There is still a lot to learn about this amazing reptile. As the research continues, biologists have gained a healthy respect for their ability to adapt.
I really like alligators a lot. It's an animal that when it hatches out of that egg, it's ready to eat. It's not like some birds that, you know, the mother bird comes and feeds them and has to take care of them and things like that. When that little alligator hatches out, he's ready to go right away and start eating.
Alligators are a walking science fiction movie with a suit of armor that seems to be soldered metal, not skin and bone. They appear to be otherworldly lizards from some undiscovered land. It is mesmerizing to watch that mammoth skull with eyes staring right through you and wonder, what will it do next? They are both creepy and charming ambassadors of the watery South.
As development pushes alligators out of their world and into ours, education may be the only long-term solution for maintaining the peace between them and us. I'm Sharon Collins. We'll see you next time.
Funding for Georgia Outdoors has been made possible in part by grants from the Georgia Natural Resources Foundation, from the Imlay Foundation, and from viewers like you.